Hey, what's up, guys? This is the American Soldier, Pisnick64 here, and as you can tell, I'm wearing my like authentic Alabama Crimson Tide jersey from like 10 years ago. This jersey's been here since I was like in elementary school, and it still fits, and I still love it. It's like still no, you can see there's a lot of tear. There's been a lot of wear and tear in this jersey, but it's still loyal to me. But anyways, this is about college football, so that's why I'm wearing this. Bama fan, whole life. Whole family's from there, so I'm not a bandwagoner. I've rooted for Alabama since 1997. We've had some dark years. Anyways, this video is about a response to schlegdaddytv, OTRS Central's college football playoff is still stupid. And there was a lot of things he said I disagree with. When it comes to wrestling, I can agree with mostly what he says. There are some things that are debatable. But when it comes to college football, I thought this is not okay. Before we continue with this, I'm telling you right now, this is not a bashing. I respect him. Great guy. A little cocky. Still a good guy. Okay. Very smart. I've learned a lot from him. At least in wrestling. Football. Now, by the way, I'm sorry about the camera problems. My computer's still broken. That's why Pisnick hasn't been uploading as much. Still having major computer issues. But they will be getting fixed over time. But with football, there's just a lot of things I didn't agree with this college football analogy. First, we're going to start with the Iowa. He was saying how Iowa doesn't deserve to be in the top 4. First off, when you go 11-0, and you're telling me, you said that only the best should be going into playoffs. You say that Iowa has a weak schedule, that they didn't play Michigan, Michigan State, or Ohio State. Well, let me ask you this. You said Michigan State's more deserving. Here's the problem with that. Yes, they beat Ohio State. Yes, they beat Michigan. But they lost to Nebraska, which Iowa beat Nebraska. So why aren't they more deserving? Iowa's 11-0. They're the only other 11-0 school other than Clemson. So why don't they deserve to go in? They play in a power conference school and they're 11-0. And you said that a one-loss Ohio State, Michigan State. Now they still have to play each other, but hypothetically, let's just say let's just say there wasn't a championship game, which I'm going to get to Oklahoma and Notre Dame in a second. You said Iowa doesn't deserve to be there, but why not? They only have 4. I'm going to give you some statistics here. 4 4-star recruits on their team. So this is a team that basically doesn't have recruits. They just have average, above average high school football players that wanted to play football for Iowa. They worked their butts off and went undefeated. This is a team effort. There's no one-star player. And you could say Clemson has their star quarterback. Alabama has Derrick Henry. But who can you say is their star player for Iowa? This is a team that works their butt off. And you said they're not deserving. I thought that pissed me off. And this is a Bama fan telling you. You talked about Oklahoma. You said how Oklahoma is always, finding a way in the championship, which I do agree with. You also talked about Notre Dame and how Notre Dame should be in. Why? Here's the problem with Notre Dame. They don't play in a conference. Same with Oklahoma. They don't play in a conference championship. So why are they more deserving? Teams like Clemson, Bama, Iowa, Stanford, they got to play another game. You say that they are more deserving than Iowa. I'm sorry. I'm never going to be a Notre Dame fan. I will never like Oklahoma. I hate those two teams. So maybe this is just maybe because the history between Bama and Oklahoma and Bama and Notre Dame. Um, Alabama always struggles against Oklahoma, and I don't know why. But this year, I hope it's different. But here's the thing. Why does a one-loss team... So you're basically saying, you can go 12-0, and you can't make the championship game. So it's like, oh, Iowa, congratulations, you went undefeated, but we're going to take this one-loss Michigan State team versus one-loss Ohio State team, and I think, they lost the game, so they're more deserving. But you went undefeated. You worked your butts off. Sorry, you'll get a Fiesta Bowl shot. What? What kind of logic is that? Another big problem. You kept saying power conferences. And you talked about how the NCAA basketball was so great. But here's the thing. Let's go back to 2009 championship game. Who did Duke play? A Cinderella team called Butler. I actually watched Butler play live that year against Cleveland State at Cleveland State. My high school basketball coach randomly said, hey guys, you want to go to a college basketball game? You want to see one of the top 25 teams in the country named Butler, which no one's never heard of? We were like, who? And later that year, that team went to a championship. Here's the problem with your theory on college football. You kept saying power conferences because of money. What about Boise State? Think about what Boise State did to Oklahoma. Remember that game? So you're going to leave those Cinderella teams out. That, we don't have one this year, but I'm just saying hypothetically. Let's say Toledo. Remember how Toledo was shocking the world and went undefeated up until like the last week? What if they went out? Would you say because of their schedule? Isn't that unfair? They went undefeated. They won their MAC championship. Don't they deserve a shot? I'm just thinking, there's these schools that come out of nowhere that can... And remember Utah. Let's remember 2010 Sugar Bowl for a second. Remember Utah? Before they went to the Pac-12 when they were just still in the Mountain West and they shocked Alabama in the Sugar Bowl? Utah wasn't that big of a school back then. Now they are. But you leave in Appalachian State, Michigan. It's... you can't always say that it has to be the power conferences. And I think that is a big problem in college football. That in college basketball, remember Davidson? When Stephen Curry played? Remember all the 15 seeds that always beat Duke in the last 5 years? How some of them went pretty far. All I'm saying is, you talk about these power conferences. You talk about you want to get the best money possible because of Notre Dame and all these. What about the small fan bases? What about the small schools that want to give it a shot? Boise State proved it against Oklahoma. They could play with the big boys. That's just another problem with what I disagree with. I disagree with you hating on Iowa. I disagree with you plugging Notre Dame and Oklahoma because they're a big-time fan base. That doesn't mean nothing. Penn State has a giant fan base, but do you see them going anywhere? Here's another problem I have. You talk about these one-loss schools like Florida, well, two-loss schools. You talk about putting their six-man playoff system. I think it should be 8. And let me tell you why it should be 8, not 6. You talk about your number 1 and 2 seeds. You kind of have it like the NFL system, pretty much. The only problem with that is, what if, hypothetically, let's go with the biggest schools in each power conference, for example. Pac-12, USC. Let's say USC won out. Big Ten, Ohio State. Let's say they win out. SEC, Alabama. Let's say they win out. Big 12, Oklahoma. Let's say they win out. ACC, Miami, let's say they went out. Let's say every team won out. Who do you put as number one? Who do you put as number two? That's the problem. It's just too. NFL is a little bit easier to do because there's a lot less teams. There's only 32 compared to 119 Division One double A or Division One single A. You know. So with my 8-man system, you bring in those Toledo's, those Houston's, your Boise States, let's say they went undefeated. You bring in you could put them at the 8 or 7 seed. You can put them at a small seed, but you get those at-large bids. Now, their Power 5 conference, there should be a Power 6 conference. You got the American Conference, Conference USA, American Conference, whatever they're called, like Louisville, Cincinnati, Houston. They're really starting to get better. Why don't you add them as a power conference? There you go. Now you have an even amount of power conferences, and then you have a 2 at large, where you could have one of those small undefeated teams, and then you can have another 1-loss, 2-loss team. But okay, so North Carolina. Let's go with this. North Carolina, for example, they're 11-1. They got a chance to play Clemson. They went out. Let's say North Carolina wins. They're only ranked 14th. Do they deserve a shot? Championship? Because they're 11-1. They should be in that top 4. Let's say Florida wins out. I don't think Florida deserves it because they've already lost twice. I think 2-loss teams should never play because they lost twice already. So a team that goes undefeated, so let's say Iowa wins out. So you're saying a Florida team that's lost twice, that's a bet, can beat Iowa out. Stanford. And you talk about Notre Dame and Oklahoma being more deserving than Stanford, but yet Notre Dame lost twice this year. Just saying. I just don't agree with a lot of things you said. Statistically, with Iowa, they're 11-0. How do they not deserve it? I don't think 2-loss teams should be in there. That's just me, though. That's just Alabama, Pisnick, whatever you want to call me, Steve, whatever you want to call me. I just don't agree with it. I do agree that the college football playoff system needs to be fixed, but I don't. I think 8 would be better than 6, and they need to add a 6 power conference. And they need to have an at-large Cinderella team and maybe a 1-loss team that did not play in a championship game. Maybe like a Notre Dame. But the problem with Notre Dame is all they have to do is win like 8, 9, 10 games. And they're in because they don't have to play in a conference. They don't have a conference schedule to base the championship off of. So that's unfair. Same with Oklahoma. They have a conference, but they don't have a conference championship to play. So that's one extra game that Clemson, Iowa, and Bama have to play. So why do those 2 teams are more deserving than a Stanford, who's probably going to win? Now, yeah, you leave the Pac-12 out of the championship game. That's why you bring an 8-man system, so you have one from each championship. Kind of like the NFL. You have a champion from each division as your first 4, and then you have 2 at-large teams. So why not have 5? Because the problem with 6 is you only have 1 team left to pick. That's not good. But with 8, then you add American Conference. So there's your 6 team. Let's say they go 11-1, and then you have 2 at-large teams. You can have your Notre Dames and maybe your Florida State's in there. There you go. That's just a little things. Now, I made this video actually last night, and the sound didn't come off. I probably said a lot more in that one than this one. But, you know what I'm trying to get at is Oklahoma, you know, they have historically been trying to sneak in championship. But what about Notre Dame? You know how many times they've snuck in? How many times? Notre Dame and Oklahoma, they're just two schools that just always get everyone's kissing their asses. And I'm sorry, but I don't think they either one. Well, Oklahoma, they do deserve to go in. Yes, they beat every power conference or power school in the Big 12. Notre Dame, what have they done? You talked about having Ohio State over Iowa. Here's the problem with that. And you said Iowa State has a weak schedule, or Iowa has a weak schedule. What the fuck did Ohio State have? They barely beat in Indiana, one of the worst historic schools in college football. They only lost by one play. You're telling me that that Ohio State team is more deserving just because they stomped Michigan? When Clemson barely beat South Carolina, and you say Iowa State, or wow, and you say Iowa. Now Iowa, yes, they beat Nebraska by 8, but then again, that Nebraska team beat Michigan State. You could call it a fluke all you want, but they still didn't get it done. Ohio State fans call Michigan game a fluke. Or Michigan State fans. Ohio State call Michigan State game a fluke. And then Michigan can call Michigan State game a fluke. And then, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's just a spin. But they still got it done. Iowa still beat the team that beat Michigan State. So you're saying that Michigan State's more deserving if there wasn't a championship right now and the college playoffs were to start right now. You're saying teams like Notre Dame are more deserving than a team that has four stars. Only 4. I believe Alabama has 23. I think Clemson has like 17 if I can't think of the numbers off the top of my head. And Alabama has what, 11 5-stars? Iowa has 0. So a team that has basically nothing versus a stacked team that couldn't get it done in the Big Ten. Ohio State. Sorry, I just don't agree with you on that. I love you. Great guy, but I just don't agree with you on that. I'll put a link in the description to his video so you guys can like see the comparisons of what's different, his 6-man system or my 8-man system. I talked about all the Cinderellas that are going to be missed out if they have an undefeated season because of the way he has it versus my way, because in the college basketball system you always have a Cinderella every year. Every year you have an upset team. Why not in college football? You saw Boise State. You saw Appalachian State. You saw these small schools taking it to the big school. And let's say Toledo would have won out this year. Let's say they did. Don't they deserve a shot? Because they beat some power teams. They beat some big-time schools, if I remember correctly. Just saying. I know you're going to probably respond to, well, they didn't win now. But I'm saying, what if? What if? You know. I understand where you're coming from. But just remember, college basketball. Now you can't say, because some of their schedules are pretty weak, too. Look at Wichita State. That's a small school that won out, was the #1 seed. Now, yes, their conference is building up much better. That conference, that Missouri Valley Conference, is very good, and it has been the last couple of years. But I'm just saying, a couple of years ago, yeah, just saying. Alright, guys, I have nothing else to really say. You know, thank you guys. Thank you, Schleck Daddy. Just don't take this as a bashing. Just take this as a debate. Take this as, hey, you know, Pisnick, I see where Pisnick's coming from, but I don't agree with him. Don't be like, oh, that fucking idiot Pisnick. I'm going to bash him. I'm going to fuck him up. Please don't do that. Please. Because, yeah. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. I'm the American Soldier, Pisnick 64. Roll Tide. I'm out. Peace.